Welcome to team number 4 presentation. We'll be analyzing FedEx Corporation. The team members are Beata Guy, Eloisa Tescon, Philip Lovenberg, Ryan Van Manen. Our agenda gonna start with the introduction, history and leadership team, and global acquisitions. And then we're gonna go through business model, product differentiation, revenue sources, mission and strategic management, current state of the economy and of the sector, current issues, summary and recommendations, and we're gonna finish with references. Now I will go over the history of the company and their leadership team. FedEx is the global industry leader, providing dependable and prompt deliveries to more than 220 countries and territories. The organization got very popular with overnight shipping services. FedEx links organizations that settle with only 1 to 3 business days, more than 90% of the world's gross domestic product. In addition, FedEx evolves matchless air routes, transportation infrastructures, and the newest information technology. FedEx includes segments as express, ground, freight, services, office, and logistic. FedEx operations include 689 aircrafts, more than 200,000 vehicles, and more than 5,200 operating facilities. Approximately 560,000 team members worldwide currently handle more than 15.5 million shipments each day. FedEx was named by Forbes 2019 the number 35 top regarded company, number 51 world's best employer, and number 89 most valuable brands. In 1965, Yale University undergraduate Frederick Smith wrote a term paper about the passenger road system used by most air freight shippers. Smith explained the need for shippers to have a system designed specially for air freight that could accommodate time-sensitive shipments such as medicine, computers, parts, and electronics. A few years later, his term paper came to life when the company he started, Federal Express, incorporated in June 1971. It officially began operations on April 17, 1973, with the launch of 17 small aircrafts from Memphis International Airport. On that night, they delivered 186 packages to 25 U.S. cities from Rochester, New York to Miami, Florida. For its headquarters, the company chose Memphis, Tennessee because of the city's central location. Another factor was the Memphis weather, which rarely caused closures of Memphis International Airport. The airport was also willing to make the necessary improvements for the operation and had additional hangar space readily available. Though the company did not show a profit until July 1975, it soon became the marketplace, premier carrier of high-priority goods, and the standards setter for the industry. In the mid-1970s, Federal Express took a leading role in lobbying for air cargo deregulations. Those efforts came to place in 1977, allowing Federal Express to use larger aircraft such as Boeing 727s and McDonnell Douglas DC-10s, and spurring the company's rapid growth. In a 24-hour period, the fleet travels nearly 500,000 miles. The company matured during the first half of the 1980s as its growth rate compounded 40%. In fiscal year 1983, Federal Express reported $1 billion in revenues, making American business history as the first company to reach the fiscal hallmark inside the 10 years of startup without mergers or acquisitions. Following the first of several international acquisitions, intercontinental operations began in 1984 with service to Europe and Asia. The following year, Federal Express began its first regularly scheduled flight to Europe. In 1988, the company initiated the scheduled cargo service to Japan and acquired Tiger International ENC less than a year later. With the integration of the Flying Tigers network in August 1989, Federal Express became the world's largest full-service all-cargo airline. The acquisition included routes to 21 countries. A 1995 acquisition from Evergreen International Airlines provided authority to serve China and made the growing company the sole U.S.-based all-cargo carrier to the nation. The first evaluation of the company's corporate identity came in 1994 when Federal Express officially adopted FedEx name. FedEx Express has continued to evolve and expand over the course of the first decades of the 21st century. In 2016, FedEx acquired TNT Express, the largest acquisition in the FedEx history. TNT expands the FedEx portfolio by adding more than 50,000 team members and over 30,000 vehicles. It significantly expanded the FedEx Express route network in Europe, as well as the companies present in parts of the Middle East and Africa, Asia Pacific, and the Americas. FedEx has worked to make international shipping as easy as possible for customers who wanted to connect with opportunity in global markets. With the value of global trade now at more than $18 trillion, FedEx has continued transforming its business to better align with the projected worldwide population and economic growth. One key to that has been the acquisition of many transportation companies that allowed FedEx to directly serve specific markets and provide better services to its customers. In February 2000, FedEx acquired Tower Group International, a leader in international logistics and trade information technology. Tower Group became the foundation of a new segment, FedEx Trade Networks, which in turn acquired World Tariff, a premier customs duty and tax information company. FedEx Trade Networks, which was rebranded FedEx Logistics in 2019, is now one of North America's largest volume customs entry and a leader in international ocean trade facilitation. Here we can see how in just 10 years, FedEx expanded its organization worldwide through acquisition of many organizations. Now I will go over FedEx leadership team. We'll start with Frederick Smith. He was born in 1944 in Marks, Mississippi. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of FedEx Corporation. After 4 years of service in Marines, including 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, he launched the original air-grounded FedEx Express network, which began operations in 1973 to serve the rapidly growing high-tech, high-value-added sectors of the economy Smith had predicted. The company has since grown into $87 billion global enterprise that serves more than 220 countries and territories. Smith is responsible for providing strategic directions for all FedEx operating companies, FedEx Express, FedEx Ground, FedEx Freight, and FedEx Services, which includes FedEx Office, FedEx Logistics, and FedEx DataWorks. Then it's Rai Subramaniam. He's a president, chief operating officer, and a director of FedEx Corporation. Before being named president and chief operating officer in February 2019, Subramaniam held various leadership roles in operations and marketing across the FedEx portfolio of operating companies. Subramaniam has more than 30 years of industry experience at FedEx. His international leadership experience, business insights, and focus on globalization have contributed to the success of the FedEx. Mike Lenz is Executive Vice President and CFO of FedEx Corporation. Lenz is responsible for all aspects of the corporation global financial functions, including financial planning, treasury, tax, accounting and controls, internal audit, investor relations, and corporate development. He is also a member of the 5-person executive committee which plans and executes the corporation's strategic business activities. Lenz's extensive experience in the transportation industry and finance spans more than 3 decades, including his 15 years at FedEx. Lenz joined FedEx in 2005 as a vice president of finance at FedEx office. He became staff vice president of strategic finance at FedEx Corporation in 2010, followed by a promotion to corporate vice president in 2012. Robert Carter is Executive Vice President of FedEx Information Services and Chief Information Officer of FedEx Corporation. He's a member of 5-person executive committee which plans and executes the corporation's strategic business activities. Carter is also co-president and co-CEO of FedEx Services. Carter joined FedEx in 1993 and has over 35 years of systems development and implementation experience. Carter is responsible for setting the technology directions of the FedEx applications, networks, and data centers that provide around the clock and around the globe support for FedEx product offerings. Mark Allen is in charge of directing the international and domestic legal, security, and government affairs for FedEx Corporation and its subsidiaries, which includes ensuring that global business activities are conducted in compliance with international, federal, state, and local government regulations. He's also the member of the 5-person executive committee. During his time at FedEx, Allen has directed international commercial and aviation negotiation, managed government relationships around the world, and handled a broad array of corporate governance, regulatory security, and operation matters. With extensive international experience acquired over many years living and working abroad, he has been a key contributor to the global growth and expansion of the FedEx enterprise. Jill Brennan is Executive Vice President and Chief Sales Officer of FedEx Corporation. She brings more than 3 decades of experience serving in many roles globally. Brennan leads an organization of more than 15,000 team members responsible for more than $65 billion in worldwide revenue across multiple FedEx operating companies. She oversees the strategic customer and supply chain related activities and leads sales, operation, analyst, education, and customer solution teams. Brennan serves on the Strategic Management Committee of FedEx Corporation, a select group of the company's top leadership that sets the strategic directions for the enterprise. In her previous role, Brennan was the Senior Vice President of Sales in Europe and Middle East, India, Subcontinent, and Africa. Before she relocated to Europe, Brennan served as a Senior Vice President of International Sales. Since joining FedEx in 1985, Brennan has also held the roles of Vice President of Marketing, Vice President of Solutions, and Vice President of U.S. International Sales. Bree Carrier is the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing and Communication Officer for FedEx Corporation. In her role, Carrier oversees the company's global marketing and communications, including advertising, brand and reputation, product and business development, innovation, e-commerce, retail marketing, and digital access. She's also responsible for oversight of the global customer experience and revenue management teams. She's a member of FedEx Strategic Management Committee as well. Career brings more than 18 years of FedEx experience to her role, and most recently served as a senior vice president of the Global Portfolio Marketing Organization. In that position, she oversaw teams responsible for e-commerce, international marketing, global supply chain services, strategy and innovation, and marketing development. Prior to that role, Career served as a vice president of marketing, customer experience, and corporate communications for FedEx Express Canada. She was responsible for commercial and digital strategy, brand and reputation, customer service, and clearance operations. She oversaw the commercial growth strategies for FedEx Express, FedEx Ground, and FedEx Freight in Canada. Now I will go over business model, product differentiation, and revenue sources. FedEx Express invented express transportation and remains the industry global leader, providing reliable, timely delivery to more than 220 countries and territories. FedEx Ground provides low-cost, day-certain service to any business in the US and Canada, as well as residential delivery to 100% of US residences through the FedEx Home Delivery Service. FedEx Ground Economy, a FedEx Ground service, specializes in the consolidation and delivery of high volume of low-weight, less time-sensitive business-to-customer packages. FedEx Freight is a leading North American provider of less-than-truckload freight services across businesses and residences. The company offers FedEx Freight Priority when speed is critical to meet customers' supply chain needs, FedEx Freight Economy when a customer can trade time for cost savings, and FedEx Freight Direct, a service to meet the needs of the growing e-commerce market for delivery of heavy products. FedEx Freight also offers freight delivery service to most points in Puerto Rico and US Virgin Islands. FedEx Office provides document and business services and retail access to the packages transportation businesses. FedEx Logistics provides integrated supply chain management solution, specialty transportation, custom brokerage, and global ocean and air freight forwarding. FedEx Services provides sales, marketing, information technology, communications, customer service, technical support, billing and collection services, and certain back-office functions that support the transportation segments. FedEx has always been trying to differentiate their products over their competitors as DHL or UPS. FedEx first came out with overnight shipping, first who innovated the Cosmos technology for the shipping industry, a software that allowed to track entire shipment process. Segmentation to differential over their competitors, FedEx has segments as express services, freight, office, ground, trade networks to better assist and focus tremendously on their own customers and strategies. They also developed FedEx Roxo, same-day boat, which is delivery device that can perform deliveries for local businesses to help with the same-day deliveries complexity and cost. As we can see it from the graph, the primary revenue sources came from FedEx Express as 50% of the whole revenue, which is $42.1 billion. FedEx Ground, which makes 37% of the revenue with $30.5 billion, FedEx Freight with 9%, which is $7.8 billion, and FedEx Other Sources, which contains 4% and $3.5 billion. Total revenue in 2021 was skyrocketing high of $84 billion due to COVID-19 relating more interest in e-commerce. As we can see, In 2021, the primary income source was FedEx Ground with $3.18 million, FedEx Express with $2.81 million in profit, then FedEx Freight with $1.01 million. Even though FedEx Express provided the most revenue as $42.1 billion, the most profit came from FedEx Ground. We can see the revenue kept growing during the last years except 2020. In 2016, the FedEx revenue was $50.4 billion, in 2017, $60.3 billion, 2018, $65.5 billion, 2019, $69.7 billion, and 2020, $68.6 billion. In 2021, the revenue reached as high as $84 billion. Now I will hand over to Eloisa, who will introduce you to FedEx mission and strategic management.
Thank you, Beata. Now that we understand how FedEx was created and its primary business model, we'd like to assess how the organization has structured its operations from a strategic management perspective. Based on Barney's Gaining and Sustaining Competitive Advantage textbook, the strategic management process is a sequential set of analyses and choices that can enable an organization to perform. This set starts with the mission and objectives, then external and internal analysis, next strategic choices, then strategy implementation, and finally competitive advantage. For mission and objectives, FedEx realized that their success as a business relies on the satisfaction of its customers, so placing an emphasis on customer service, safety, and employee benefits or relations were critical. After identifying the firm's mission, we are then able to see how the company has positioned itself, which is truly one of the category leaders from a global perspective. Realizing FedEx operates in a competitive environment, robust supply chain and transportation services from a global perspective could position the organization as a premium service and brand. Now that we understand why they exist and what they do to maintain competitive advantage, it is important to understand how they perform. You can't improve what you can't measure, and by establishing long-term growth goals, FedEx is able to benchmark its performance over time. The fourth step is actual execution, and how FedEx diversifies its brand is through several business units or SBUs like packaging and e-commerce. Lastly, what does competitive advantage mean for FedEx? It is about placing customer service at the forefront and creating extensions of its brand to ensure they are consistently meeting the consumer's needs. Let's take a look at how FedEx is exceeding and combating internal and external forces. Internally, the company's wide array of service offerings enables FedEx to connect with multiple target user segments. In addition, they adapt to the changes in consumer behavior, which includes an offering like residential delivery, understanding now that customers are more at home. To better improve internally, it is important for FedEx to assess how they are promoting social responsibility efforts by being more conscious of the needs of the environment and the workforce. Externally, the company has engaged in many innovative marketing efforts by tapping into like-minded partners with similar audiences. In addition, FedEx is always innovating, including a recent initiative to bring more energy-efficient resources to its clients. To better improve externally, sustainability will be critical to support a growing economy. Strategic choices fall into two main categories: business level and corporate level strategies. To start with business level, these are certain advantages that FedEx takes, like cost leadership and product differentiation. To support, they embark in at least 3 initiatives, like investing in their team, focusing on long-term profitability, and innovating to meet consumer needs. For investing in their people, FedEx places employee development and retention as high importance. By extending benefits like tuition reimbursement, they are able to retain key talent longer. For focusing on long-term profitable growth, FedEx assesses the shifts in the marketplace and adjusts their strategies accordingly, which includes pricing. For innovating their product offerings to meet consumer needs, FedEx takes the time to understand how consumers are engaging with the brand and ensures they are strategically thinking about the customer journey and its touchpoints to maintain brand loyalty and advocacy. Corporate level strategies could include vertical integration, strategic alliances, and mergers and acquisitions, all of which FedEx leverages to maintain competitive advantage. As you can see, FedEx is constantly asking itself to build or to buy, and they place an emphasis on understanding not only what the organization's strengths and weaknesses are, but also what are the gaps that needs to be filled as it relates to ensuring they're delivering premium customer experiences. For instance, digital is becoming the way of life, and online shopping is now the norm for consumers. So, FedEx acquired ShopRunner to bolster the brand's position digitally with a new e-commerce platform. In essence, FedEx is constantly looking to challenge the status quo and innovate with new strategies to not only maintain customer advantage, but to also meet the consumers where they are. To support, a couple recommendations for FedEx is to focus on partnering with other brands with similar audiences in an effort to tap into their user database and engage in cross promotions. And secondly, to focus on digital enhancements as consumers are truly living on online platforms. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Philip.
Thank you, Eliza. I will now be going over our financial analysis of the FedEx Corporation. While FedEx was able to maintain constant revenue through the pandemic, the company went through some serious cash flow and profit margin problems as FedEx had to adjust from supply chain issues caused by COVID. These were primarily due to non-operating income expenses, which totaled over $3 billion for the company. This is reflected in both the 2018 and 2019 fiscal years, as their cash ratio plummeted by 50% from their 2017 peaks. Cash reserves have rebounded this year for the trailing 12 months to just above that from the 2017 highs. FedEx has remained liquid and is able to cover any short-term fiscal obligations. Two things to note on the turnover is FedEx's nearly 15% jump in inventory turnover and capital intensity. This huge growth is a good sign for the company, as they have not only adapted, but shown immense leadership and growth over the pandemic. FedEx has gotten slightly worse at collecting payments and debts, shown in their receivables turnover. This may be a sign of other businesses and industries struggling to make their payments. One of the most serious issues to address is that of the profit margins in 2019. FedEx's profit margin dropped to under 1% in 2019 and under 22% in 2020. This was well below the inflation rate in 2019 and just above the inflation rate for 2020. In 2021 so far, while the profit margin has rebounded to over 6%, the inflation rate for 2021 is also currently above 6%. This could mean that FedEx's recovery might not be as much as we would like to see. Due to the huge earnings drop, their PE ratio skyrocketed to 7 times during the pandemic over the 2018 year. Cash coverage has mostly recovered, and the company only took slightly more debt than in prior years. Overall, FedEx did very well navigating COVID, but as we will go over in a bit, the trends into the future are a bit more murky. "2018 was a very interesting year for FedEx. In combination of reporting losses before taxes and the enactment of very advantageous business tax laws, the company received a negative tax for the year. In essence, taxpayers paid FedEx money in 2018. Overall, though, their average tax payments are closer to 20%, and a 5% effective tax rate is an abnormality. This is also why their earnings potential was 3 times higher of all subsequent years, even with the posted losses. Their taxes in 2018 may have also played a crucial role in the recovery from the pandemic, as it would have given them extra cash flow leading up to the crisis. FedEx has remained stable in their terms of weighted average cost of capital. The returns of invested capital paint a similar picture to those on returns of asset versus the inflation rate. This low return may be troubling for investors who can deploy their money in a much more advantageous market. FedEx will have to prove to investors their ability for growth, cutting cost, and innovation. Given the extreme irregular drop due to the pandemic, more in-depth trends may want to ignore outliers and not rely as heavily on the 2019 and 2020 fiscal years. The trend I used is a two-factor polynomial, which by itself is a very general surface level trend. Obviously, such results as a 100% return on equity is not feasible over the next few years. And as FedEx's returns stabilize, we will get a better view of the future of FedEx as a company. The two-factor polynomial is only used as a general indication of trends. More complex trends would identify specific inputs such as seasonality, gas prices, port availability, and the prices of FedEx services. There are many additional variables beyond that can lead to the overall returns of the company. A deeper dive would result in a much higher regression factor as seen in the R squared of 0.36 to 0.44 above. As FedEx does not produce their own goods, their assets are almost entirely in their fleet, warehouses, and technology behind operations. The drop in return on equity was due to the drop held in cash by FedEx. I think this curve will flatten out over the next few years, and trends at those times will be slightly more reliable. The cash ratio shows that FedEx's current assets and current liabilities are much more stable than other financial aspects of the company. Again, it may be advisable to allow the company time to stabilize to make any concrete decisions based on these trends. While the ratios didn't change much, the overall debt and cash did. The new debts are used for large capital lease obligations. In 2020, FedEx filed an R-13 with the SEC for the explicit purpose to acquire 19 Boeing aircraft for $1.9 billion for the sole use of FedEx Express. This was amended and restated in March of 2021 at an interest rate of 1.525% lower than the 2020 agreement. This is a good sign as it uses the increase in cash capital for growth and expansion. Holding too much cash at any one time is not working for the company, so this is a very prudent decision. FedEx must continue to push for the ever-growing shipping market cap. This will require large capital investments, as an individual shipping barge can cost upwards of $190 million for some of the largest shipping containers in the world. This will also require a large number of crew to maintain these ships, but crewless driven ships may also be a possibility as a cost-saving measure. Driverless cars may also be good in the future to replace a portion of the driver fleet to increase efficiency. As of now, the technology and infrastructure for completely driverless cars is not quite available yet. FedEx has started to test self-driving trucks using Aurora's vehicles and a backup driver at this time in case there were an incident to occur. If the trial is successful, this will be a major milestone towards automation, as driverless trucks drive 24/7 and much more safely than with a human driver. FedEx must be able to have short-term plans to keep from a large reduction in cash flow, such as that seen in the peak of the first wave of the COVID pandemic. Subsequent waves of the virus have not as had a bad of effect on the company. showing that the company and country have started to adjust and learn to live with the pandemic. The two things that FedEx must address when profitability gets too low, even if this is temporary, is to increase the efficiency and to consider the furlough of employees. This would be a final option as employees and the appearance of the company would be negatively affected. By having more smaller warehouses, FedEx may be able to ship to these warehouses from major hubs more easily than directly from the hubs to the final destination. As cities expand and move outward from city centers, it can become more costly and time consuming to deliver packages as easily as before the growth. Strategically placed smaller hubs may act as an additional node to create shorter delivery paths. FedEx needs to consider paying down debt, but may also consider increasing debt during more difficult times. FedEx may also want to adjust debt collection rules to customers. By not allowing as long or as high of delinquency on payments, this would increase cash flow for the company. Sometimes it may be prudent to halt expansion and research in times of problematic situations, but there must be a balance. Cutting too much expansion and research may lead to stagnation, while cutting too little may lead to large drops in cash flow, as seen in 2019. The amount of global shipping is ever increasing. The need for more warehouse space and ports are showing now more than ever in an age dominated by global digital commerce. Of the 7 major ports in the U.S., the majority of these ports are in Texas and the Gulf of Mexico. Addressing bottlenecks in the logistics cycle are necessary for the increasing trade of global goods. There is only one major port on the East Coast out of LA. Like a supermarket, it is much more efficient to have multiple lanes open at checkout than a single lane. Opening up new major ports comes with its own logistics problems and personnel requirements that the state and federal governments would need to address. With so much material coming out of Asia and the backup of goods at the LA port currently, it would make sense for FedEx to work with government agencies to push for the opening of a new major port out of the West Coast. Because FedEx works around the world, they could be the bridge between many nations and the continued effort for global alliances. FedEx increasing their water-based shipping fleet would be much more efficient than ground or air transport, as the costs with barge shipping are much cheaper. Curbing customer expectations may also be necessary for the sustainability of the supply chain as a whole. Amazon for years advertised next-day shipping, but for a company, this was not sustainable given their present volume, and has since moved to 2-day shipping. The U.S. has been spoiled by the immediacy of shipping goods, and while we may have to retrain the population for longer expectations, if this is done in coordination with other shipping giants, I think it would go much more smoothly, similar to how price competition converges at an equilibrium, so must shipping times. Now I'd like to hand it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Philip. Following the financial analysis of the company, we will now transition into the current state of the economy and the sector in which FedEx lies, as well as introduce a problem statement. In addition, I will also discuss some more specific details of the current issues and some recommendations on FedEx as a whole. FedEx Corporation, as successful as its history has shown, is still facing some concerning problems in today's times. The following bullet points are some current problems that FedEx is facing. A struggle to adapt to the rise in e-commerce, heavy package volume causing shipping delays, an increase in costs and a decrease in net income. The labor force has failed to meet timelines and increase demand, as well as consumer satisfaction. With these problems, the following problem statement applies to the corporation as a whole. Existence of subsidiary companies within FedEx has proven to be beneficial but also impactful to the overall success of the company. The effect of this is overall complacency and individual poor performance. In addition, an increase in demand and unrealistic timelines on employees has created a shortage in the labor force. These problems will be addressed along with detailed recommendations in a few slides. Now, we will take a look at the economy and the sector in which FedEx operates. In a broader scope, FedEx belongs to the transportation and e-commerce sector or market. The transportation sector can be broken down into the following four branches seen below: airlines, marine, rail, and road. Within the industry, FedEx is the second largest company, totaling an $8.9 trillion value in 2021. In addition, in this industry, the United States ground transportation is the biggest in the world, primarily because there is the most roads located within the country. FedEx Ground is the company's biggest source of income that sees an average of 12 million packages per day. With increasing demand and an increase in e-commerce transportation over the past year, FedEx has made the following announcement. Effective January 3rd, 2022, FedEx will be increasing shipping rates by 5.9%. This information was found on the FedEx Newsroom website. With the labor shortage mentioned in the problem statement, FedEx saw an 11% decrease in profit this past year, as well as a $450 million increase in costs. Some external impacts that have also had an effect on the latest news and issues from FedEx are fuel prices, energy costs, weather, as well as holiday and seasonal demand. Now, I will address some recommendations for the sector and problems that FedEx are currently facing, and end with a summary of recommendations from Beata, Eloisa, and Philip. Through merger and acquisition strategies, FedEx would be able to create a sustained competitive advantage, increase its net profit, reduce costs, as well as neutralize its threats. Acquiring medium and small transportation couriers in the current market, merging with UPS to meet consumer expectations in the immediate future, and to be carbon emissions free are a few options for FedEx. The best way to do this is through a vertical merger. As mentioned earlier by Eloisa, a good example of this was FedEx acquiring ShopRunner in order to expand its e-commerce capabilities. Recommendations made throughout the presentation are as follows. Mergers and acquisitions with smaller transportation couriers in order to increase net income and neutralize threats. Furloughing non-critical employees in the immediate future in order to decrease costs while increasing efficiency. Paying off long-term debt in order to increase cash flow within the company. Continuing to focus on partnerships with smaller audiences to expand service offerings. And finally, to continue to invest in strategic marketing and promotional efforts.